If you've ever played the game telephone, then you know how quickly the wrong information can be spread. Yeah, those rumors don't stop in grade school. But when people get it wrong in medicine, it can be very detrimental. That's why we've invited someone who's basically a medical detective here to help us set it all straight. This is Misinformation Conversation. She's the author of Viral BS, Medical Myths and Why We Fall for Them. Please welcome epidemiologist, professor, and award-winning journalist, Dr. Seema Yasin to the show. Hi, Dr. Yasin. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi.
Hi,
It's
doctor.
so good to talk to you. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Now, before we jump into things, have you ever believed something that wasn't true? And how did that
Yes.
become your job?
Yes, I absolutely have. I feel like you're putting me on the spot right to start off with. But this is actually how I start the book. It's like my confession that I am a doctor now. I'm a professional debunker. But I was raised a conspiracy theorist. So even through my teens, I believed so many wild things that were so not true. Everything from the British royal family not really being human to like the flu shot can give you the flu. None of those things are true, but it was all about environment, right? So I grew up in England, super tight-knit family and community. We were immigrants, we were Muslim. We dealt with a ton of Islamophobia and racism. And sometimes the way that you make sense of the world, and especially things that are really bad in the world, is you turn to things that have a little kernel of truth, but ultimately are false. And then when everyone else around you believes those too, it becomes part of your identity and your belonging. But what happened is I was the first person in my family to go to medical school. I worked as a hospital doctor in London, and then I moved to America to be an epidemic intelligence service officer at the CDC. So if you've watched Contagion, that's the job that Kate Winslet plays. And so I did that job. I was going from one place to another. It was an amazing job. But I tell you what was so frustrating is wherever I got sent, where there was an epidemic, my sole focus was supposed to be the virus or the bacteria. But what I saw was that it was not just disease that was spreading. It was myths, it was rumors, it was health hoaxes. And I was like, hold on a minute. In medicine and public health, we're like ignoring that part of it, but actually it's helping the diseases spread and it's leaving people very vulnerable to believing all sorts of things. So I went back to school, something I said I would never do. I went to journalism school because I was like, we need to get better in medicine and public health at really sharing information with broad audiences, breaking it down so everyone understands what's going on. And so people aren't vulnerable to disease as well as disinformation about disease. So that's how I ended up writing this book.
All right, so you're going to break down some myths for us, which I'm super excited about. Now, in your book, you touched on the topic of eating your placenta, which has become pretty popular with moms and even celebs like Kim Kardashian and January Jones. So placentas are usually treated as medical waste in the hospital, but there are so many moms that are requesting it to consume for health benefits. But we want to know, should you eat your baby's placenta?
You should not eat your placenta. This is an organ that your body makes to nourish your baby when it's inside of you. And then it doesn't serve a purpose. You know, all these things that celebs have been saying, like, oh, it made my skin firmer, or it cured my postpartum depression, or it made breastfeeding easier, right? I heard all of these things. There's no evidence to back them up. And I really worry that then a mom who does have postpartum depression, which is super serious, won't get the actual help that she needs. But also what we've seen is sometimes the placenta can have an infection in it, which isn't very easy to spot straight off. So if you have somebody coming into your maternity suite and they're whisking away your placenta and they're turning it into placenta pills, placenta smoothies. I even, when I was writing the book, found recipes for placenta barbecue and lasagna. What can happen is the bacteria can end up in your smoothie, your lasagna, your whatever. And then it can get passed on to the baby. And so we've seen cases of newborns getting really, really sick because they picked up this bacteria because their mother ate her placenta. So we really want to avoid that.
That's gross.
Okay, now we have something real quick. It's always been preached to practice safe sex, especially when you're younger. But it seems like when you get a certain age, over 50, people don't talk about safe sex practices. So are older adults at a higher risk of contracting sexually transmitted infections?
Yes, they can be. And that's because as we get older, our immune systems get a bit weaker, not so great at helping us fight off an infection. And also for women, the lining of our genital tract gets thinner and weaker as we get older too. So that leaves you more vulnerable to infections. We are now seeing rates of STDs increase among older adults, everything from syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, and HIV. And when I was researching this book, what I found, I was looking for medical data on this, and it's almost like it stops at age 55. Like we stop asking people about their sex lives and their sexual health as if people stop having sex when they turn 56. And clearly that ain't the case. I've met people in their 70s, 80s, 90s, really full, healthy sex lives, as you should, if that's what you want to do. But if we're not talking to them because we're like, as doctors, we're like ageist, or we're thinking, oh, this person looks like my grandmother, I don't want to have a conversation about safer sex, we're doing them such a disservice. And that's how you end up in this situation where older adults are seeing higher rates of infection because they're not getting the information they deserve.
Wow.
This is unbelievable. This is such great information. Dr. Yasmin, this was awesome. Thank you so much for being here and clearing things up. We needed to know this.